Dennis Falloon, and I am the. Okay, I'll start now. Good morning. My name is Dennis Falloon, and I'm the District 7 Safety Academy Coordinator, and I want to welcome you to our second District 7 Safety Academy webinar, Highway Safety Evaluation. This topic will be presented by Mark Majeski, who is a PE and Director of Traffic Operations with Cardno TBE, District 7 Safety Office Consultant. And I'm going to give you a brief introduction before Mark moves into his presentation. How do I flip this up, Mark? Anthony?
Yes. Next slide.
What is the Academy? It's to provide information regarding safety-related issues to enhance your local safety programs. Go ahead. When does it begin and how do I register? Well, it began last Wednesday, and this first cycle of 12 topics will run all the way through Wednesday of January 29th, 2014. Topics will run about an hour, but no more than 2 hours, and the length of each topic will depend on what type of topic is being presented. You can register, and there's been a lot of notices that have gone out about this, but you can register to this website. You can go to the next link down there at district7safetysummit.org, and you can register through SurveyMonkey also through there. Okay. These are the workshop series. They're out there listed in SurveyMonkey. I'm not going to read through those, but there will be another one next week called the Highway Safety Manual by Joe Santos, is the State Safety Direct Engineer. Okay. And the last one is just my contacts. Like if you have questions or need assistance, you can call me or send me an email, and you've probably seen my name floating around in these emails. So don't hesitate if you have any kind of questions. With this, I'm going to turn it over to Mark Majeski to go ahead and begin his presentation.
Morning, everybody. Welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about highway safety evaluation and what type of evaluations go into our analyses. Dennis already went into this, so I'll bypass it. In our highway safety evaluation, I'm going to talk about crash analysis methods, some of the softwares that are out there, briefly talk about road safety audits, and more importantly, though, what we're currently doing for 3R projects, which are the road safety assessments, what goes into the reports, the tracking of safety recommendations, some case studies that we've also got. I'm also going to talk a little bit about the 5% report as well. Our crash analysis focus is to reduce fatal and serious injuries. And doing so, we typically look at intersection crashes, lane departures, and crashes involving vulnerable users. The list I have here includes but a few of the HSIP areas, and the vulnerable users include pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcycles, and older users as well. There are two basic analysis methods we use. One is the frequency method, and that is basically just quantifying the crashes on a yearly basis. And with using the frequency method, we typically do a trend line analysis to see if the crashes are increasing or decreasing or basically static. The other method is rate-based. The rate-based method quantifies the number of crashes relative to exposure. In this case, that would be the average daily traffic. FDOT's Crash Analysis Reporting System, also known as CARS, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, allows a rate-based comparison with the statewide average crash rate for the same facility type. In conducting a crash analysis, you either look at a segment analysis or an intersection analysis. Quite often, you're going to be doing both. In conducting a segment analysis, you're capturing all the crashes along the corridor, and that's going to include the intersection crashes as well. So you'll want to look at the crashes on a segment basis, but you're also going to take a look at them on an intersection basis separately. Essentially, an intersection analysis is a very small segment analysis that's really limited to 500 feet, and that's 250 feet on both approaches to the intersection. At the very least, in doing your crash analysis, you're going to need to do a trend line analysis for the years that you've got crash data. And many times it's easy just to look at the numbers and tell if the trend is rising or falling. But on occasion, it's not so apparent. And Excel has a slope function, very easy to use, and you can tell whether or not the slope is rising or falling. There are two schools of thought on how to go about implementing safety. The data-driven approach requires that the financial investment you make for safety be supported by crash history. There's also a holistic approach that implies that whatever safety measures you implement will, in the future, enhance the overall safety of the facility. For the most part, in doing our HSIP work, we operate under the data-driven approach. Currently, we're using 3 different analysis tools depending on our client. They are the department's Crash Analysis Reporting System, also known as CARS, the Crash Data Management System, CDMS, and more recently, we're getting into using Signal 4 Analytics. The CARS system is FDOT's crash database. It will provide you with the average crash rate for your particular location, as well as the statewide average for the same facility type. The summary quantifies crashes by type and conditions, and the detail portion provides you with the actual crash ID so you can actually go to the crash report form or in-depth review of the circumstances surrounding the crash. One of the nice things about the CAR system is if your segment is comprised of 2 or more sections, CAR will perform a rate-based analysis on each section for each facility type. CDMS is a proprietary software that was created by Tyndale Oliver & Associates. It's currently used in District 7 as well as many of the local governmental agencies as well. It's frequency-based, and one of the nice features about CDMS is that it will display intersection crashes by type and direction, and this is really helpful to quickly quantify crashes on an approach basis. They have currently rolled out a web-based version of software as well. Most recent of the crash analysis softwares is Signal 4 Analytics. It was and continues to be developed by the Geoplan Center of the University of Florida. It's web-based, and they are also currently working on a module that will allow them to quantify crashes by direction, just like CDMS does as well. It, too, is web-based. Of special note here, if you're going to do a rate-based analysis and compare it to the statewide average, your analysis should be limited to those years that went into defining the statewide average. In other words, you may not be able to use the most recent crash data in your analysis. Doing so, or at least maybe I should say in your comparison, doing so won't allow you a true comparison. As it stands, the last year the statewide average has been defined for is 2011. That being said, certainly don't be afraid to review the most recent crash data as well in a trend line analysis that you can also do.
We have a question in the chat about suggestions for how a local agency should analyze their crashes, particularly for segments, since they do not have section number or milepost.
One of the ways to do that is using Signal Analytics 4. Signal Analytics isn't milepost driven. It's more a GUI, basically drawing a fence around a location and getting the information that way. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but the thing with that is, if you're going to put a report together and send it out, somebody may not be able to correctly recreate the number of crashes that you've encompassed by that fence. But Signal Analytics 4 is one direction that a lot of the local governments are taking. Hopefully that answers the question.
If I can add to that, Mark, I mean, all crashes in the state, whether they're on system or off system, are located by their on-street and cross-street. So they are assigned a node. So to select off-system crashes, even though off-system there is no section number or milepost, the nodes are selected. That's what the CDMS does off-system. That's what Sigma 4 does off-system. It just selects the crashes by their geolocation. The crashes are also in the state from the car extracted with XYs. So off-system, the crashes, although are not assigned to a section number, can be graphically viewed in the location where the crashes actually occurred, and the crashes can be selected for those segments. So there's multiple options.
Thanks, Anthony. Now I'm going to talk about road safety audits. I believe we're all aware of what a road safety audit is. Many of us have seen presentations on it in the past. It's a formal activity with a multidisciplined team. This presentation presumes you're aware of what goes on in a road safety audit. And if anyone out there has ever been tasked with orchestrating an audit, they'll tell you that one of the biggest headaches they've got is simply just scheduling the team. Road safety assessment was primarily developed as a proactive and effective way to support 3R projects. Road safety assessment is not formal or comprised of a multidisciplinary team. By eliminating the formal and multidisciplinary team aspects, we've developed a cost-effective alternative. Road safety assessment is an abbreviated form of a road safety audit. Now, the road safety assessment is conducted before the scoping of 3R projects and serves as a tool for the department's project management folks. And typically, the road safety assessment is conducted by two people, both of which have a background in safety, and it also helps to have a background in traffic operations as well. Now, the difference between an audit and assessment is typically when you're doing an audit, you already know that the location has some safety problems. And the audit's intent is to implement the safety recommendations that fall out of the audit as soon as it's, financially feasible. In an assessment, you're not really sure. Reason being, you're doing these anticipation of a 3R project. You're not really sure if there are any problems out there. And that's why it's important that a safety assessment be data-driven so that it's as cost-effective as possible. Once you've done your crash analysis, it's time to perform your field review. Make sure you're equipped in the field. I'm sure you all bring cameras and tape measures and measuring wheels with you. But in addition, we have found it useful to bring a smart level. It comes in handy for documenting, the super elevation on curves. And if you've got access to an iPad, I highly recommend that as well. With it and the proper software, you can take geo-referenced photos, and it will allow you to quickly check FDOT standards. As you should also have out in the field any signalized timings for any of the signalized intersections that are out there as well. That's very important. Safety assessment report is made up of an executive summary, an introduction, the segment summary, and the intersection summary. Your introduction should include the reason for the analysis, the method used, the software you're using, the years of the analysis period, date of your field review, and the location map. Both the segment summary and intersection summaries are pretty much set up the same way, describing your crash analysis, the qualitative assessment, and all of that followed up by your recommendations. That is, in fact, if you've got any. In your crash analysis, make sure that you define the limits and length of the project, define the facility's category type, quantify the yearly crashes, define your crash rate, and that is statewide average. And this goes along the lines of allowing somebody else to basically recreate the work that you've done if in case they need to do so. Next, you can move into the qualitative assessment or field review. Here you'll discuss the physical and operational characteristics and primarily any observed deficiencies that would impact safety. If you're going to make any recommendations for improvements, you should include an estimated cost to construct and what that expected crash reduction will be. Crash reductions should be referenced to the crash modification factors for the proposed enhancement And if the factors you're using doesn't have a high confidence rating, you probably need to justify its use. When developing your crash reductions, be careful not to double count. Also, don't forget that your total segment crashes include the intersection crashes as well. Once you've completed the body of the report, you need to put together an executive summary. Try to keep it to one page, and don't forget, very important, this may in fact be the only page that the 3R's project manager will read. In defining your crash reductions, try to use factors with a high star rating, and most importantly, and I'll say this again, avoid double counting. You know, for instance, if you're going to apply multiple crash reduction factors to an intersection, let's say, you know, the yellow reflectorized backplates, also maybe eliminating the permissive portion of a left turn phase. Basically, you need to reduce the total crashes by, let's say, the number of angle crashes first. Once you've got that new number, then apply the backplate factor to the remaining crashes. As you start to amass all of these audits and assessments, you'll need to start keeping track of them. Implementation of your safety recommendations is typically categorized as short, medium, and long-term. Short-term implementation are those that can be completed possibly by your maintenance folks. Midterm may be doable under a typical 3R project. And then some of the long-term recommendations may only be achievable with major reconstruction project. Once your recommendations have been implemented, you should conduct, if possible, a before and after analysis. This is kind of a long-term commitment, and the fact that the more years of after crash data that you can get, the better your assessment is. I'd like to go through a few case studies. On behalf of District 1, we performed a road safety audit on a 50-mile section of Alligator Alley. There had been a number of lane departure fatalities, but when a mother and her two daughters rear-ended another vehicle and proceeded to run off the road and ended up in the canal, the department wanted us to do a road safety audit for them. The audit team consisted of FDOT staff from both District 1 and Tallahassee as well. Cardinal TBE, we had one of our sub-consultants on board who specializes in law enforcement, and they also had the department's maintenance contractor, services as well. Our crash analysis showed 20 crashes resulting in 27 fatalities, 12 fatal crashes by lane departure, and 3 of those crashes resulted in 7 fatalities by entering the canal. You can see here on the graph to the right, too, that 10 of those fatalities occurred in 11. Our safety recommendations, a few of the top safety recommendations included enhanced use of the travel advisory radio, upgrade of the roadside barriers to canal entry, basically a little fortification there, widening the inside paved shoulders to 10 feet, enhanced signing to discourage stopping at the toll plaza where a lot of the crashes were occurring, enhance the side slope stabilization for better recovery, and also add audible vibratory lane markings that would also supplement the rumble strips that were in place. One of the other interesting audits we conducted was a pedestrian safety audit for the Countryside High School over here in Clearwater, Florida. The audit team included District 7 staff, Pinellas County, and school board staff, as well as law enforcement, Cardinal TBE, and some Tyndale-Alhor staff as well. The audit was primarily predicated on a student fatality. He was crossing mid-block when he was hit, and as a matter of fact, our field review indicated that this was happening quite often. Our study recommendations, including adding a barrier to the median to discourage mid-block crossings, additional lighting for the morning arrival hours, particularly around this time of the year, and enhanced signing at the signalized intersections. This case study was an assessment rather than an audit, and we did this one in anticipation of an upcoming 3R project over in District. Crash analysis indicated a segment crash rate lower than the statewide average. In fact, you know, the corridor had all the amenities that you'd want. It had sidewalk on both sides, it had bike lanes, also had roadway lighting. The intersection crash rate at State Road 70 and 45th Street was higher than the statewide average, and as you can see, it's trending up with a spike of 27 crashes in 2011. The one fatality was a left turn crash that occurred during the left turn permissive phase at that intersection. During our field review, we observed that the intersection no longer had a permissive left turn phase. The department had made the decision to eliminate it. We found no other deficiencies that would compel us to make any changes to the current operation or geometry. And basically the reason I'm presenting this as a case study is to impress upon everyone that not all locations, you know, are going to show any safety problems. I want to talk about the how to handle the 5% report a little bit. The 5% report, in a nutshell, it basically represents the highest 5% crash locations within each district. One of the first things we do in reviewing the 5% report is to screen the list so as to eliminate the duplicate locations. Duplicates occur when you have an intersection of two state roads. So we've got to screen that list to eliminate these duplicates. For the remaining locations, typically this is frequency-based, where we pull the most data and basically perform a trend line analysis. Quite often we find that the reason a location shows up on the list is that it's experienced a spike in crashes for maybe a particular year. Is it possible that these locations have been subject to the phenomenon that is called regression to the mean? Yeah, it's quite possible that's why it's shown up on the list. You should also do a crash review to see if the location exhibits any unusual high number of any particular crash type as well. Once you've completed your crash analysis, you should perform a field review to determine if there are any possible safety deficiencies or possibly changes in the geometry or the operation of the intersection. Maybe some new local developments have come online, and they in fact may be contributing to some conflict points and thereby the crashes at the location. At this point, you should be able to start making some educated decision on what needs to be done. If your crash analysis, in doing the crash analysis, that you've noticed, a spike in one particular year, and yet the trend seems to be declining, and you didn't find anything in the field, that location may in fact have wound up on the list simply due to the regression of the mean phenomenon, which means simply that you're going to maybe make comment that you need to continue to monitor the intersection to see if that trend is declining. Basically, you might be done at this point for what you or how you want to handle that particular intersection or segment. If, however, you determine that some improvement is warranted, then you'll want to define what that is. You'll develop, an engineer's estimate for construction and decide your best opportunity to implement that fix. If you're District 7, you've basically got four possibilities. If the fix is minor, you might be able to get it done under the maintenance contract. Next, you can research the work program to see if there's any upcoming road work, then you might be able to get it included in. And if not, you got to ask yourself the opportunity of getting into a lap contract, or might this be a good candidate for the design-build-push button? And I know the design-build-push button is one of those contracts that's going to be making its way into a lot of the other districts, but it's currently available under District 7's. One of the important things that you need to make sure of in making your recommendations, you should always be aware of the implications for any particular recommendation. For instance, if you're going to recommend changing a signal's left turn phrasing from permissive to getting to protected only, you got to ask yourself the question: does the turn bay have enough storage for those additional vehicles to queue in? If you're going to add signal heads or backplates, what are the implications to the loading on the signal structures? If you're going to recommend converting a bidirectional left turn lane to a raised median, and the vehicles and trucks make U-turns at the median openings, these are but a few issues that it can arise from making recommendations. So you really need to think it through. And in fact, a lot of these recommendations, you may need to perform some additional studies to ensure that your recommendation, isn't going to cause problems or operational problems somewhere else. And with that concludes the presentation. If anybody's got any questions, now's the time to ask.
There's a question in the chat about the 5% report. They're wondering if local agency safety projects can be included in the 5% report.
Yes and no. The 5% report reflects state facilities. So if one of the roads on a local effort to improve the intersection is on a state road, then yes, it might show up. But if it's the intersection of two local roads and it's not a state road, then it's not going to show up on, as far as I'm aware, it's not going to show up on the 5% report.
There's a question about, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but that being said, there's no reason that the locals cannot, they can also promote their own improvements by simply petitioning the department for a lap contract. Or sometimes, I think you might even be able to get that done under a design build push button as well.
There's a question about net present value, wondering what the calculation is. I don't know if you can speak a little bit about the difference between net present value and benefit costs.
You know what? I thought about going into that. I made the decision not to. There are a number of upcoming presentations where that person will go into that far more in depth than I'm able to do that at this point.
Fair enough. Yeah, that is a topic for discussion for one of the other webinars. Real quick though, I mean, it's just another way of comparing projects in my mind, and I don't know if this is the way that everyone views it, but net benefit cost for me is a threshold. If it exceeds a particular benefit cost, whatever the department chooses, whether it's 1.0 or 2.0 or off system or on system, then those projects are considered to be good because the benefit, the improvement, is higher than the cost of the improvement. The net present value takes the amortized rate of those projects and brings them all to one point in time and compares the monetary value of those improvements. And for me, it's a way of sorting. So you want to filter your projects by benefit cost, and then you want to sort by net present value, and you end up with the projects that have a benefit cost that meets the criteria, and also are the projects that have the most bang for the buck. But we'll get into that in much more detail in other presentations. Yes, absolutely. The presentations will be available online. I can actually paste the link in the chat of where those will be. The slides for this presentation are available already if you follow the link to that website that is on there, and the recording will be available in the next day or two. Could you go over the field review assessment slide once again in order to take future notes? Someone let you go back. Mark?
Yes, I'm sorry?
The field review slides, if you can go over that once more. Someone would like to take notes on what you've done, the field review assessment slide. I'm not sure which slide number that was.
Sure.
The presentation was not distributed ahead of time, Rob. website that's available online right now?
I'm hoping this is the one that the person is talking about. Basically, just a camera, tape measure, measuring wheel, smart level. Comes in quite handy for the super elevation on curves. And, something you may not think of, always have the signal timings. It's very important.
They're saying in the chat that, yes, this is the slide they were talking about. Thank you. There's a question about road safety audits and how one goes about having one done. Is FDOT providing assistance to local agencies? Is it strictly the responsibility of the locals? So someone's interested in an RSA, how do they get one done?
Well, they can call their local department, and the department may, in fact, be able to fund an audit for them, but there's no reason why they can't do a road safety audit themselves as well.
The guidelines are available on FHWA's webpage.
Yeah, and I didn't go into audits all that, really didn't go into audits at all, simply because of the fact that, at least I presume that most of the safety professionals out there have already gone through audits on a number of occasions.
Anthony,
Are there any other questions? Seems like we are... Is there a published FDOT procedure for doing road safety audits?
Road safety assessments, no. There really is not one for doing a road safety assessment. A road safety assessment is basically an abbreviated form of a road safety audit. Once again, we created it as a tool to be proactive in getting some safety recommendations out there while the 3R project is underway. So basically, you're using their contractor's mobilization while he's out there doing work anyways to get some of this additional work, if there needs to be work done, included at that time. And primarily, you want to get these assessments done and delivered to the department prior to the 3R scoping. If there's something else that needs to be done, for instance, if you're out in the field and you find that, an intersection's yellow time has not been updated yet, well, you certainly want to get that in the scope. And it's a great time to do it, too. If anybody would like, I can certainly send some assessment that we've completed. Anthony, can I type on this thing here?
You mean in the chat? You should be able to type in the chat, yes.
Yeah, if like a copy of an assessment that we did, I can certainly send it to him. My email is right there. So if you want to send me a request, I'll forward you a copy of an assessment that we did. John brings up a good point, too, John Temple, that District 7 has its own RSA procedural document that I believe is available on the CTST website. Is that right, Anthony?
Yes, I believe so. It is on the ctst.org webpage.
Did Larry Taylor have a question?
Larry did not receive his email invite. Someone forwarded it to him. He was just wondering what happened. So I will check with the registration list to make sure that he is in fact registered for all the webinars.
Okay.
I believe there was a number of folks this morning that did not receive the email.
Anthony, do you think District 7 has anything they want to say?
District 7 would like to speak.
No, I'm just wondering if they'd like to. I don't know if Peter or anybody. So, just a question. Hello?
They're logged into school right now.
Okay. I thought they were Larry. Okay.
Is it Larry?
Yeah, Larry Taylor.
That'll be the 975 number. Are you there, Larry?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. You are live.
All righty. I'll behave then.
Are there people with you, Larry?
Iris Riggs is here. She started in here last week as another consultant here in District 7. Peter is otherwise engaged, as well as Dave Scrilunas and Bill Reha is in training. So we're it for today. But I must commend you guys. Great job. Mark, terrific presentation. You hit the key points. Lots of good information there. And I think we can just sit back and wait on the responses from all in attendance.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that person hoping to get a little more information on the net present value calculations. That webinar is going to be on December 18th.
Yes.
So if you haven't registered, please register.
I'm putting in the chat a link to the registration. It's the SurveyMonkey email. Those links should also be in the bottom of your link for the meeting for today. So if you made it somehow here today, you should have the link for registering and the link for one of the presentations will be posted. They're all in that email.
Okay, are there any more questions?
If there's no more questions, Dennis, I don't know if you want to wrap us up. Tell us about next week's webinar and we can conclude.
Well, I just wanted to I want to thank again everybody that participated today. And Mark, thank you so much for your presentation. And like Anthony just stated, next week is the Highway Safety Manual presented by Joe Santos out of the Central Office Safety Office. He's the state safety engineer. And you did receive a notice on Monday about that. If you have not registered yet, you need to. So anyway, appreciate it very much, and thank you. I hope you have a good day.
All right, thank you, everyone. I will stop the recording now.